knows it yet, but the real reason I'm in Iowa is I'm trying out for the Quad Cities River
Bandits.
River Bandits. I don't know if anybody remembers, there was a little girl, and she wanted $100, and so she wrote a note. She said, "Dear God, please send me $100. I'll do good things with it." And well, the postmaster didn't know what to do with it, so he sent it to the president. The president said, "Well, that's cute. Send her $5. She'll think that's a lot of money." She got the money, and she was a little bit underwhelmed. But her parents said, "Always write a thank you." So she wrote a thank you. "Dear God, thanks for the money. But next time, don't send it through Washington. They stole 95%. It's what happens all the time. It's a very simple precept, but it's something that some Republicans have lost. Because what does that mean? If you're not going to send your money to Washington, if you think it's better spent in Iowa, that means you have to have lower taxes. But the problem is, we have a lot of Republicans in Washington. We control Congress. We control the House and the Senate. But what passes for bold up there isn't reducing taxes. They call it revenue neutral tax reform. I tell them, good luck getting somebody to knock on the door for you. "Hey, I'm for revenue neutral tax reform." Who cares? That means half of you pay more, half of you pay less, but the net result for the economy is zero or neutral. What we really ought to have a debate in our country is the money better spent here? Are we more likely to create jobs here? Or are we more likely to create jobs in Washington? Or worse than that, are we more likely to create jobs by sending it to Pakistan? So there's a lot of debate that should be had over this. We looked at the tax code. Tax code's 70,000 pages long, and we said, it can't be fixed. Let's just get rid of the whole tax code, all 70,000 pages, and let's start over. The 70,000 page tax code is chasing American jobs overseas, is chasing companies overseas. Our business tax, our corporate income tax is 35%, the highest in the world. Canada is now 15%. So we're losing business, we're losing jobs overseas. If you're a young startup company and you have a choice of a 15% business tax or a 35% business tax, what do you think you choose? We have a business in Louisville that pays probably close to 35, but they compete with a business that's in Bermuda that pays 9. So we're doing this, and it's happening over and over, decade after decade. You cannot have the highest taxes in the world and expect to keep jobs. So the jobs are going overseas, and so I said, look, let's scrap the whole thing. Let's replace it with a tax return that you can fill out on one page. 14.5% for businesses, 14.5% for individuals. And what do Democrats say? Oh, they say that's for the rich. You're just trying to help the rich. Well, we do something in our tax code that no one's ever done before. We go ahead and get rid of the payroll tax. So if you make $40,000 a year, you don't pay much in income tax. And so you don't have much incentive to say, well, I'm for that tax cut because it's not going to do much for you. But in our tax cut, if you make $40,000 a year, you pay about $2,000 in payroll tax. You won't pay it any longer. It'll come out of the business tax. So what happens is we have one simple rate and everybody gets a tax cut. It's a several trillion-dollar tax cut. So people say, well, wouldn't that blow a hole in the debt? You say you're against deficit spending, you're against incurring more debt. I absolutely am. I would cut spending. I would cut spending in a dramatic fashion. One of the reasons I ran for office, I tell people I got tired of throwing things at my TV. It's the main reason. But things I was unhappy with weren't just Democrats. I was unhappy that I would work hard and elect Republicans, and then I didn't get any better than the Democrats, or I got slightly less bad than the Democrats. During the last Republican administration, we doubled the debt. We bailed out the banks. Now, Democrats were culpable as well, but both parties got together and did it. Now, under this president, we're quadrupling the debt, and we're on course to add more to the debt than all the previous presidents combined. So is it worse? Yes. But we've also got to offer an alternative that would actually do something. I think we should balance the budget. I think we should just simply spend what comes in. So the thing is as we look at what we want to do and how we want to move forward, we need a Republican who actually stand for something. Let's make the argument that the money's better spent. Even with regard to trying to reach out and say, how are we going to be a big enough party to win? Illinois, we win 90% of the geography and we lose Chicago. Why do we lose Chicago? We don't get any African American vote. Pennsylvania, we win 80% of the geography, we lose Pittsburgh and Philadelphia because we don't get get any African American to vote. I'm the one candidate that's been going there. I've been to Philadelphia at a boys' Latin school, which is a private school with scholarships and vouchers for inner city kids. 100 black kids graduate every year and every one of them goes to college. There are amazing successes if we'll reach out and say, let's do something different. But also we can reach out to the south side of Chicago or to Detroit and say, we're going to help you bail yourselves out by leaving more money in your community. My tax cut would leave $1 billion in Detroit. I'm not asking you to send your money to Detroit, but why not leave $1 billion there instead of sending our money to Washington and then sending it back to Detroit after half of it's lost in Washington? As we look forward, we have to figure out how we're going to win again. Some people say, well, we should just dilute what we stand for. We should become Democrat-like, and if we were just more like the Democrats, we could win again. I say hogwash. I think we need to be more boldly for what we're for. I think we need to not apologize for being for small government and a large amount of freedom, for maximizing the individual liberty of every individual. In fact, Madison said we would pit ambition against ambition. The ambition of Congress to want more power against the ambition of the President to want more power, and they would check and balance each other. You would have equilibrium. This President's tearing that apart. Not just this President, though. It's been going on for a while. More and more power has been gravitating to the executive branch. This President will give you regulations that will be more expensive than any law ever created, and we will never vote on it. This is a problem. We're like America, and it's a disaster in Libya. We should have never been there in the first place. This will separate the candidates. Many of the candidates on the stage not only wanted to get Libya, they say Hillary Clinton's only mistake was we didn't put enough troops into Libya. The problem is that you have to look at this objectively. Gaddafi was a bad guy. We shouldn't have given him any of our money either. But you have to question whether toppling him was a good idea. He was a secular dictator. What happens when the dictator falls? You get chaos, and time after time you've gotten the rise of radical Islam. Over a third of Libya now pledges allegiance to ISIS. So is the country more stable or less stable? Are we more safe or more at risk? I think we're more at risk. You have a failed state. You've got terrorism now organizing in Libya. But we made it worse by getting involved in toppling the government. But what I fault Hillary Clinton most for is that when the Ambassador Stevens was sending cable after cable back, asking for more support, asking for defense, all of it was denied by Hillary Clinton, every bit of it. She kept bringing security forces home. Then she whined and said, oh, Republicans didn't give her enough money. You know what she was spending her money on? Hillary Clinton's State Department spent $650,000 on Facebook ads that summer. Seems the State Department doesn't have enough friends on Facebook. They spent $700,000 on landscaping for the embassy in Brussels. They spent $5 million on crystal barware and glassware for the embassies. But when it came time to leaving a security team in there to defend the ambassador, nothing happened. No dice. So when Hillary Clinton came before my committee, I asked her this one question. I said, did you read the cables from Ambassador Stevens? Did you read these cables pleading for help? And she kind of acted like, oh, she was busy traveling and didn't have time. And I told her, I said, look, by not providing adequate security, by not defending our embassies, it should forever preclude you from holding higher office. A lot of people who've been for a flat tax and we got to get rid of everything. Just have a low flat tax and make it simple as possible. One reason I decided to, I tell people jokingly it's because I'm a moderate and I couldn't get rid of everything. But part of it is that people plan on their houses for a long period of time. You might have a 30-year mortgage, just a long period of time. And some people have planned on deducting that interest as part of their financial plan. If you got rid of the mortgage interest, you would probably have to grandfather those in who already are deducting it. There's also this enormous lobby of people selling houses and giving out loans that are opposed to getting rid of the mortgage deduction. My goal is to have a low simple rate, and I just decided that was one thing I just didn't feel like we could surmount. There's too many obstacles already, and I also left the charitable one in there too because universities and hospitals and It's just something I decided we didn't, so we left 2 deductions in. And they're big. I mean, the mortgage deduction, charitable deduction is big. But this would be a significant tax cut. And that's the message I want to leave you with. This would be a lot less money. In fact, I call it starving the beast. We send a lot less money to Washington. The goal is to have a debate on where jobs are best created, leaving the money here or sending it to Washington.
You want 14.5. When the taxes were first initiated, the man who freed the slaves slaved everybody else. He created the taxes, but he only wanted 3%. Can you just tell me why you want 14.5?
There's always somebody who wants more. The thing is that where we are now is, if you're in the top bracket, you're in the 40-something%. So we're talking about lowering it from 40-something, maybe 42 to 14. Mine is the most significant tax cut. There'll always be, I mean, there are probably people here who don't think we should have an income tax at all. I see the heads nodding. I see the heads nodding. The income tax brings in about 40% of the revenue. We're already 40% short, so we'd have to just dramatically get rid of most of the federal government. I'm with you. We can get there. Let's do it. But the thing is that this is a pretty dramatic change from what we have. We'll be very lucky to ever get what I'm proposing. But if you have the 14.5%, you add in charitable and you add in mortgage, you might get to your 10. Anybody else?
What do you say are the most important things we should do to make healthcare better?
You know, I practiced medicine for 20 years, and so I've heard the complaints. The number one complaint I would hear when people came in was cost too much. Health insurance costs too much. If you're a business owner, they complain about how much they're having to put out. If you're a worker, you're complaining that every year you're having to pay more and more for your health care. The most important thing about fixing health care is actually an economic answer, which really has to do with economics in general. What kind of economic system creates the most amount of wealth and distributes the most amount of goods at the cheapest cost? Capitalism. In capitalism, there are a couple things that have to happen to have capitalism. One is freely fluctuating prices. The other is the consumer has to engage the price, and there have to be alternatives. In healthcare, there aren't many. In fact, 50% of what I did as a physician was taken care of by the government. Medicare, Medicaid, the prices are fixed. So what I would charge for cataract surgery is the same as a surgeon here would charge in Waterloo, same as they charge in Montana. So that's not a marketplace. No one's trying to undercut someone with a lower price. You compare that to iPads or iPhones or any of the electronics that we make, where the price curve has been going down. We get better and better devices at a cheaper price. In medicine, you get longer and longer lines and average quality sometimes and higher prices. But it's because there isn't enough capitalism. So even under the old system, before Obamacare, there wasn't enough capitalism. But we went the wrong way. We went towards more government instead of towards more capitalism. There were two things in my practice that were largely capitalistic: LASIK surgery and contact lenses. For 15 years, the price of LASIK surgery went down. The average patient calls 4 doctors before they go to any of them for LASIK, and they ever want to match the price. So our staff had to know the price, and you have to tell them the price. Try asking the price of having your gallbladder removed at the local hospital. They don't know. It's really, really complicated. There's 40 different prices based on which insurance company. There's a charge, which is never the price. It's not very transparent, but nobody pays to get their gallbladder out. LASIK, you pay cash, and the price comes down. Contact lenses, if you wanted to get them in my office, I was within pennies of Walmart. Not because I wanted to, but because I knew you would go to Walmart if I didn't compete with Walmart. So the price came down every year. It used to cost hundreds and hundreds of dollars to get your contacts. Now it's, $25, $30, you can get 6 of them. So the prices come down dramatically when you have a marketplace. So the fix for healthcare is you need a marketplace. How do you do it? You need to make it legal to sell any kind of insurance that people want. Right now, the one thing Obamacare did, a lot of people don't realize this, Obamacare made it illegal to sell inexpensive health insurance. Inexpensive health insurance wouldn't have any mandates, would have a high deductible and a low premium. Under Obamacare, you have high deductibles and high premiums because they mandate that it cover a whole host of things. pregnancy and birth control and all the different mandates, in vitro fertilization and you name it. But the mandates cause it to be more expensive. If you have a high deductible that doesn't cover much of another deductible, that's perfect for a young person. And hopefully you do that while you're healthy. You put your money into a health savings account, and health savings accounts will be expanded as well.
I know you're going to repeal Obamacare, and I'm glad, but what are the steps you're going to have to take to repeal Obamacare?
The first step is you need to win the presidency. You got to win 60 Republican seats in the Senate and keep a majority in the House. And to tell you how rarely that happens, hadn't happened since like 1922. When the Democrats had 60 in the Senate and in both chambers, that was extraordinary also. It's extraordinary for one party to ever win so many seats. So when Obamacare passed, it passed with all Democrat votes and no Republicans. So politically, it's very difficult. If I were president, and let's say there were only 55 Republicans in the Senate, I would go to the 5 most reasonable Democrats and I would say, look, this isn't working, help me fix what's broken, and we would try to incrementally fix it as well. I'm for repealing the whole thing, but if you don't have the votes, then you have to figure out what you can do. Expanding health savings accounts alone would create a marketplace. If everybody in here had a health savings account, you'd have a way to escape around, and you'd go to higher and higher deductibles and hopefully lower and lower premiums. I think legalizing the sale of all types of insurance again might be something that some Democrats might go for. So expand health savings account, try to legalize the sale of multiple insurance and a sale across state lines, that kind of thing.
How about as far as with healthcare and all that, being a medical profession, talk a little bit about what if you were elected president, what do we do with that?
I think the main thing is we need more freedom in healthcare, freedom for individual patients to make a choice on who their doctor is, but also what kind of insurance they can buy. And the problem has been is that under Obamacare, the president made it illegal to buy inexpensive insurance. So insurance has become more expensive, and I don't think that we've necessarily fixed the problem. We may well have compounded the problem.
Before Obamacare, that so-called inexpensive insurance is really just a discount plan. Didn't really cover anything at all. Why would going back to that system be a better plan?
It would actually be going forward to a system, and I'll give you an example. I have a family of 5, and for years my insurance cost me between $3,000 and $4,000 a year. I had a high deductible and it didn't cover much, but now I still have a high deductible under Obamacare and it costs me 4 times as much. I'm like nearly $20,000 on insurance now. So Obamacare has distorted the marketplace. There's not true competition and prices are higher for those who are actually paying for their health insurance. So really what you need is freedom in the marketplace to offer whatever people want to buy. No one was forcing someone to buy those products, but they were inexpensive. Now there are no inexpensive health insurance plans.
But you say that the Affordable Care Act is not working. The American Medical Association has released reports that it is working. More than 10 million new insurance customers, 16-point-something new Medicare enrollees, and Medicare and Medicaid costs are less now. Why do you say it's not working with those statistics?
If you look at where the money's coming from, for example, let's say that we wanted to make cars free for everyone. You can make a program work, everybody will sign up. So the fact that everybody signed up for something free and people are all participating in something that's supposedly free doesn't mean it's necessarily working. You have to pay for it somehow. Medicare is $35 to $40 trillion in the hole. It's an enormous hole. How did we pay for Obamacare? We took money from Medicare and shifted it over to Obamacare. Obamacare is giving you something that's free, but there is nothing that really is free. The money has to come from somewhere. So it either comes from incurring debt, or it comes from raising taxes, or it comes from other individuals having to pay higher premiums, the ones who actually pay for their insurance. So there's nothing free. And then you can say, well, it's helping the poor. Well, what if in helping the poor by giving them something free, we put a damper on the economy and there are less jobs? Some say that the burden of our debt costs us 1 million jobs a year. So I would argue that it's not working, that health insurance is still very expensive for those who pay for it. For those who don't pay for it, I think we're reducing their opportunities to get jobs.
Over the past, going back to 2000, Planned Parenthood on average
given over $500,000 to political candidates and their action groups. 98% of that has been going to the Democrats. So what I was wondering, is there any organizations out there that are actually, that receive federal funding that predominantly funds Republican candidates? And why is this even allowed? It's a conflict of interest as far as I'm concerned.
I couldn't agree more. In fact, if people want campaign finance reform, the perfect campaign finance reform would be if you get federal money, you can't participate by contributions or lobbying. Planned Parenthood is an enormous lobby up there. And when your friends come up to you and they say, oh, I'm pro-choice, let's just keep giving them money, Planned Parenthood doesn't do anything that community health centers don't do. There are 9,000 community health centers funded by government that don't do abortion and that do all of the stuff Planned Parenthood claims that they do. They just don't do abortion. They're everywhere. We've doubled and tripled the amount of money of community health centers. There is absolutely no argument for any money to go to Planned Parenthood. And after seeing these grisly videos, it has to stop, and I've forced a vote on it, and it's largely because of my efforts. We're going to have a vote on Monday on it. I'm getting rid of it. Thanks, everyone.